There comes a time in life when everything goes quiet, the noise of the world fades, the opinions of others grow distant, and in that silence you meet the one person who holds all the answers, yourself. But we don't often sit in that silence, do we? We're taught to be busy, to seek approval, to be everywhere except within. We're told to be perfect for the world, yet no one tells us how to be enough for our own hearts. Let me tell you something that no one told me. You are not here to impress anyone. You are here to become everything you were afraid you couldn't be. You are here to shock the world, not with arrogance, but with the quiet power of transformation. They laughed at you, good. They doubted you, even better. They left you when you were broken, empty, invisible. That's perfect, because now you are free, free to rebuild, free to rediscover, free to reclaim your time, your truth, your tenderness, free to fall in love with the person in the mirror who's been waiting for your attention. Do not let the world define your worth. Do not let success be measured by numbers, applause, or likes. Let it be measured by how much you cried and still stood up. Let it be measured by how many times you chose to heal instead of hurt back. Let it be measured by how fiercely you protected your peace. When you focus on yourself, something magical happens. Your energy changes. Your boundaries strengthen. Your smile becomes real again, and slowly, the same people who ignored your struggle will have no choice but to notice your rise. But here's the secret. You're not doing it for them. You're not transforming to shock them. You're doing it for you, to feel whole, to feel enough, to feel alive in your own skin. The world told you that you needed to be someone else to be loved. But now you know love begins the moment you decide to show up as your most authentic self. The moment you stop begging for a seat at their table and realize you can build your own with your story, with your scars, with your strength. There is power in being misunderstood. There is beauty in not fitting in. Because the ones who shock the world are the ones who no longer seek permission to exist. They rise quietly, patiently, fearlessly. So focus on yourself, nourish your mind, protect your energy, be kind to your heart. Do not rush, do not compare. You are not behind. You are simply preparing for the kind of success that doesn't make noise, it makes history. And when they ask, how did you become this version of you? You won't need to explain. You'll just smile and say, I stopped running after them and finally started walking toward myself. And that changed everything. ChatGPT said, self-transformation begins when you stop seeking external validation and start focusing inward. From a young age, many of us are conditioned to believe that our worth is determined by the opinions of others. We look to our parents for approval, to our teachers for affirmation, to our friends for belonging, and eventually to society for recognition. In doing so, we forget to ask ourselves the most important question: what do I want? We chase degrees because they're respectable, jobs because they pay well, relationships because they look good from the outside. But in the quiet moments, when the world falls silent and we're left alone with our thoughts, something doesn't feel right. There's an emptiness, a sense that we've been living someone else's story all along. That feeling, that internal nudge, is not a sign of failure. It is the very first whisper of transformation. It is the soul reminding us that we were never meant to perform, only to become, and becoming requires us to turn inward. To stop asking others for direction and begin asking ourselves for truth. When we stop seeking validation, something shifts inside us. The noise begins to fade. The pressure begins to lift. We begin to question the things we used to chase and slowly let go of the need to be liked by everyone. We realize that people's opinions are often reflections of their own fears, their own limitations, their own unhealed wounds. What they say about us says more about them than it does about who we truly are. In that realization, we begin to detach from the external judgments and start building a relationship with the self. This relationship is not built overnight. It starts with small acts of self-awareness, small questions like, how do I feel? What do I need today? What am I holding on to that no longer serves me? As we ask these questions, the answers are not always loud or clear. Sometimes they come in the form of silence, sometimes in tears, sometimes in sudden moments of clarity during the most ordinary moments. But they always come, and with each answer, we come home to ourselves a little more. The journey inward is not easy. It requires us to face the parts of ourselves we've ignored for years. The insecurities, the pain, the trauma, the guilt, the shame. But in facing them, we begin to heal. We begin to reclaim the pieces of ourselves we once gave away for approval. We begin to understand that we were never broken, only buried beneath layers of expectations and fear. The more we connect with our inner self, the more we begin to trust our own voice. That voice, once drowned out by the opinions of others, begins to grow stronger. It guides us toward the life we truly want, not the life we were told to want. We start making choices based on what feels right instead of what looks right. We begin to surround ourselves with people who nourish our soul rather than inflate our ego. We start doing things that make our heart sing, not because they will impress others, but because they make us feel alive. There is a sacred power in focusing inward. It doesn't mean becoming selfish or disconnected from the world. It means becoming so deeply connected to yourself that you no longer abandon your needs to meet someone else's expectations. It means creating boundaries not to keep others out, but to keep yourself safe within. It means learning to sit with your emotions without judging them, learning to forgive yourself for the times you didn't know better, and learning to celebrate your growth even when no one else sees it. This inner work creates a quiet strength, a strength that isn't loud or boastful, but steady and unshakable. It allows you to walk into any room without needing to prove anything. It gives you the courage to say no when something doesn't align with your values. It gives you the clarity to recognize what's meant for you and the wisdom to let go of what's not. When you stop chasing validation, you begin to see yourself clearly. You realize that your worth was never dependent on how much others applauded you. It was always there, waiting for you to claim it. You understand that success is not about being admired by many, but being at peace with yourself. You learn that joy isn't something you find outside, it's something you create within. As you focus on yourself, you become your own source of comfort, your own greatest cheerleader, your own safe space. You stop waiting for someone to choose you and start choosing yourself every single day. This shift is powerful. It changes the way you walk, the way you speak, the way you show up for life. People may not understand your journey, and that's okay. They don't have to. What matters is that you understand it. What matters is that you know why you're doing what you're doing. And even when the path gets lonely, even when self-doubt creeps in, you hold on to the truth that you are becoming more of who you were always meant to be. Focusing inward is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole. It's about owning every part of your story, the light and the dark, the wins and the wounds. It's about showing up authentically, even when it's messy, even when it's vulnerable. It's about giving yourself permission to grow at your own pace, to evolve on your own terms, to redefine success through your own lens. And as you continue on this path of self-discovery, something beautiful happens. The need for comparison dissolves, the hunger for recognition fades. The desire to compete with others is replaced with the desire to connect with yourself. You realize that your journey is not a race, but a sacred unfolding. That every setback is a redirection, that every challenge is a mirror, that every quiet moment is a chance to listen deeper. The more you turn inward, the more you realize that everything you were looking for out there was already within you. And in that realization, the world around you begins to change in ways you never expected. The most powerful growth happens in silence, away from the spotlight, through consistency and healing. There is a kind of transformation that doesn't make noise, that doesn't announce itself to the world with grand gestures or dramatic changes. It happens quietly, slowly, beneath the surface where no one else can see it. It begins in the early mornings when you choose to rise instead of remain still, when you start your day with a promise to do better than yesterday, even if no one is watching. Growth like this is not glamorous. It doesn't come with applause or approval. It comes with repetition, with showing up again and again even when the progress feels invisible. It is in the moments when you want to give up but choose to keep going anyway, in the times when you feel stuck yet still take one small step forward. These are the foundations of true change. It is not in the loud declarations, but in the quiet decisions that you build a life of meaning. There are seasons in life when everything feels still, when nothing outside of you seems to shift. The days look the same, the work feels unnoticed, the efforts go unappreciated. But these are the seasons where the soul does its deepest work. These are the times when your resilience is being built, when your patience is being tested, when your inner strength is being formed. In these silent seasons, there is no instant gratification. There are no immediate results, but slowly your roots are growing deeper. Slowly your spirit is learning to trust itself. Slowly you are becoming the kind of person who can weather any storm. That kind of growth cannot be captured in a photo or posted online. It is not for the world to see, it is for you. It is between you and the mirror, between you and your breath, between you and the quiet voice inside that keeps whispering. Keep going. Consistency is one of the most underrated forms of power. It is easy to be passionate in the beginning, to start with energy and excitement. But real growth happens when the excitement fades and you still choose to stay committed, when the results don't come as fast as you hoped and yet you keep showing up, when the praise disappears and your only motivation is the vision you hold within. This kind of consistency builds discipline. It teaches you to rely on your own determination instead of waiting for external motivation. It shapes your identity. Every day that you keep going, you are proving to yourself that you are capable of more than you thought. You start to trust yourself. You start to believe in your ability to change your life from the inside out. You stop needing others to remind you of your worth because your actions speak it back to you. With each small effort, you are becoming the person you once wished to be, and even though the world may not notice it right away, that inner shift begins to reflect in everything you do. Healing is another silent kind of growth. It is not linear, it does not follow a schedule, it is not always visible to others. Sometimes healing looks like crying alone in the dark. Sometimes it looks like letting go of things that once felt necessary. Sometimes it looks like setting boundaries with people you love. Sometimes it looks like forgiving yourself for the times you didn't know better. It's in the quiet moments when you finally sit with your pain instead of running from it. When you allow yourself to feel without judgment. When you choose to breathe through the discomfort rather than distract yourself. These moments may feel small, but they are everything. They are the steps that lead you toward wholeness. They are the moments when the wounds begin to close. When you heal, you don't always feel lighter right away. Sometimes you feel heavier before you feel free. But each time you choose yourself, each time you honor your needs, you are telling your inner child, I am here for you. I will not abandon you again away from the spotlight. There is room to make mistakes. There is space to experiment, to fall, to learn. There is no pressure to perform, no fear of judgment. In this space, you can truly grow. You can take your time, you can find your own rhythm. You can start over as many times as you need, and in that freedom, you discover who you really are. Not the version of you that performs for others, but the version that exists when no one is looking. That version deserves your love, that version is worthy of your patience, that version is the foundation of everything you are building. Growth in silence allows you to rebuild your self-worth from within. You start to rely on your own approval. You stop needing the world to validate your choices. You begin to understand that your journey doesn't need to be seen to be valuable, that not every chapter is meant to be shared. That some of the most sacred breakthroughs happen in solitude when you choose to grow silently. You protect your energy. You guard your dreams. You stop leaking your power by constantly seeking reassurance. You become more intentional, more focused, more aligned. You learn to differentiate between what feels good temporarily and what truly nourishes your soul. You stop chasing things that only feed your ego and begin nurturing the things that feed your heart. Your circle may become smaller, your priorities may shift, you may lose people who were only attached to the old version of you, but what you gain is far greater. You gain clarity, you gain strength. You gain peace. You begin to embody the very change you used to only talk about, and that embodiment creates a ripple effect. Even though your growth is quiet, its impact is undeniable. People may not understand how you did it. They may not have seen the tears, the doubts, the sleepless nights, but they will feel the shift in your presence. Silence gives you the space to connect with your intuition, to hear the guidance that is always available when the noise subsides, to make decisions that align with your deepest truth, to move from a place of authenticity instead of reaction. It teaches you that presence is more powerful than performance, that being real is more fulfilling than being impressive, that peace is more valuable than attention, and in this sacred silence you find your voice. Not the voice shaped by the world, but the voice that has always lived inside you, waiting to be heard. The most powerful growth is not about becoming someone new, but returning to who you've always been beneath the layers. It's about peeling back the masks, releasing the roles, and standing in your truth with quiet confidence. It's about rising from your own ashes, not for applause, but for freedom. And though the world may never fully understand the depth of your journey, you will know. You will carry the strength of your silent battles, the wisdom of your quiet evolution, and the courage of your unwavering heart. ChatGPT said, "You don't rise to prove others wrong. You rise to finally honor yourself." There is a subtle but powerful difference between growing to silence your critics and growing to fulfill your truth. One comes from a place of reaction, from a need to respond to pain, rejection, or doubt, while the other is born from self-respect, from deep inner knowing, from love for who you are and who you are becoming. Many people spend years chasing success or transformation for the sake of proving a point to those who never believed in them, forgetting that true healing doesn't come from external validation, but from internal alignment. Rising from your past, from your pain, from your limitations is not about showing the world what they missed. It is about finally showing up for the person you were always meant to be. It's about reclaiming the parts of yourself you once gave away to be accepted, the dreams you abandoned to be safe, the voice you silenced to avoid conflict. When you honor yourself, your growth is no longer performance-based. It doesn't require an audience. It becomes a private promise to no longer abandon yourself. You stop acting from a place of revenge and begin creating from a place of truth. You stop needing to be seen, heard, or validated by those who misunderstood you. Instead, you begin to understand yourself. You begin to see your own worth even if others never will. This shift is where real power begins, because when your growth is rooted in self-respect, it becomes sustainable. You're not chasing a finish line set by others. You're walking a path that belongs to you. You make peace with your past, not to erase it, but to honor how far you've come. You forgive not because they asked for it, but because you deserve peace. You choose healing not because someone is watching, but because your spirit craves lightness. Rising to honor yourself means allowing your journey to be deeply personal. It means recognizing that your story doesn't need to fit into anyone else's narrative, that your success doesn't have to look like what others expected, that your choices don't have to be understood to be valid. You begin to live in a way that feels true to your soul, even if it confuses the people around you. You stop explaining your worth, defending your decisions, or shrinking to stay acceptable. You start speaking kindly to yourself. You start standing taller in your truth. You start wearing your scars as symbols of survival, not as things to be ashamed of. Your rise becomes a sacred act of self-acknowledgement. You look in the mirror and finally see someone who is no longer waiting for the world to choose them. You choose yourself. And that choice becomes the foundation of everything else. There is a quiet kind of strength that comes from living in alignment with your own values. It doesn't demand attention, but it commands respect. It doesn't need approval, but it inspires reflection. This kind of strength comes from doing the hard things without needing credit, from taking the high road when revenge would be easier, from healing instead of hardening, from believing in yourself when no one else does. You don't rise to prove them wrong, because proving them wrong still gives them power over your story. You rise to reclaim your story. You rise because your existence is already proof that you are worthy. You rise because your life belongs to you now, not to their expectations, not to their judgment, not to their past roles in your pain. Your rise is not a performance, it's a return. A return to your heart, your voice, your light. Honoring yourself means making decisions that reflect your inner truth, even if they are uncomfortable. It means walking away from situations that drain you, even if you once begged to stay. It means letting go of roles that no longer feel aligned with who you are becoming. It means choosing rest when the world praises hustle, choosing kindness when anger feels justified, choosing presence when distraction tempts you. Every time you choose yourself in this way, you are rising, and each of those choices, while small, begins to reshape your reality. The way you speak changes, the way you think softens, the way you move through the world becomes more intentional. You no longer hustle for worthiness. You no longer argue with people who can't see you. You no longer betray your boundaries to keep the peace. You rise from that old version of you who once thought being chosen by others was the goal, and you begin to see that being chosen by yourself is the real victory. People may never apologize for doubting you. They may never recognize the way they hurt you. They may never admit they were wrong, and yet your rise is not dependent on their awareness. It is anchored in your own. You rise not because of them, but in spite of the pain they caused. And more than that, you rise because you deserve to, not to make a point, not to make a scene, but because you are no longer willing to live below your potential. Because you finally see that your time, your energy, your presence is too sacred to waste on proving anything. This is a kind of maturity that cannot be faked. It's the kind of inner peace that no one can take away once you've tasted it. It's knowing who you are so deeply that even when the world doubts you, you do not waver. Rising in this way changes the way you view everything. You no longer seek revenge, you seek release. You no longer want to show them who you are, you want to be who you are. You stop trying to rewrite the past and instead focus on building a future that feels aligned. You begin to trust your timing, you begin to appreciate the slow seasons, you stop needing shortcuts and learn the value of the long way around. You stop needing to win and instead focus on growing, because now it's not about a destination, it's about embodiment. You are not just chasing peace, you are becoming it. You are not just imagining confidence, you are living it. You are not waiting for healing to find you. You are creating it with every conscious breath, every boundary held. Every time you show up for yourself, you don't rise because you want to be better than anyone else. You rise because you finally realize you're not in competition with anyone. You are no longer trying to outrun the past. You are finally walking toward your future with clarity. You are no longer performing for applause. You are breathing in your own power. And as you rise, you don't need to shout. You don't need to convince. You simply exist in your truth, and that is more than enough. That is the rise the world doesn't see coming. The one that doesn't need to shock anyone because it was never about them. It was always about returning to the person you were meant to be before the world tried to tell you otherwise.